Welcome back everybody. In this video I'm going to be talking to you about the Rosebed and the Bicycle, my newest game, some of the feedback you've given me, and my plans for the end of this year and next year. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for giving some feedback on this. I have 20 free responses, and some people put a lot of detailed thinking into their responses. So I got a huge paragraph on my last one, which is fantastic. And every tiny bit of information is valuable. It may not always be the feedback you want to receive, but I think having a form like this with questions that you want answered about your own game, I think it is extremely valuable, and you should consider doing it for your game as well. Even if it's only a few people that actually do it, those few people can be the shift that you need in your thinking to actually make it a fantastic game. So here's the, obviously this is a Google form, right? And you can see some of the data that is collected for me, but also a lot of it is just, responses. And I don't want to show you the responses too much because some people are very personal in it. I also want to talk about the usefulness of these questions I ask here. It's meant to be a rating against your expectations. So you expected less or you expected more, right? So if we have a look at the actual thing here, it says less than expected, more than expected, and that isn't a positive or a negative, or it could be depending on what the person was feeling and what your intentions are with the game. So if you want the game to be really short, arguably you would want it to be more around the 1, 2, or 3. But if everybody else expected it to be super short and it was just a bit longer than that, it might actually be more than expected. So it's about understanding that it's about expectations rather than it is about actual ratings. For example, the music and sound, was there less than expected or more than expected? I actually got a lot of more than expected, despite there being only 2 pieces of music in the game. If you see here, it's quite a well-balanced thing, and so you'd think that the answer should be less than expected, but actually it put more than expected. But if you really think about it, I would say that this is the one that you would expect the most from. Well, they didn't want to be mean and put there was way less than expected because there was none, but there was more than nothing, right? And then obviously these people here may not have understood the question, or maybe they believe that 2 pieces of music are enough. So you kind of have to balance your expectations of their expectations that you have set, right? This one, for example, is very clear cut. There was more artwork than expected, meaning they liked my art style or they liked the artwork. But even then, some people say that the interiors of the buildings were bland and uncolorful, which is completely true, and I will improve that. And then maybe all of these will be 5 rather than 4. Movement and navigation, this is one that could be good or bad. If they want to move around, if the player actually does want to explore and move around, then more than expected is fantastic because they want to explore. But if they felt bored while they were playing and it took forever to get everywhere, then there was more movement and navigation than expected, and that's a bad thing, right? So you have to also understand, pick up on their previous points. I have a question of what's the your most favorite part of the game and your least favorite part of the game. And the least favorite part, a lot of it was the moving around with nothing to see along the way. So I'll definitely make sure I change that or shrink down the map. And obviously this is just a demo, so I'm intending to make it fuller and bigger and better. And by getting these reactions now, it will let me think about that as I move forward, which isn't something that people would usually do if they're just going to make it on their own and not get feedback from people. So for example, my previous game, The Clockmaker's Tale, it was a similar story where it was a lot of walking and it basically was nothing. There was no reason of walking that far except for the fact I made the maps too big. So by asking this kind of questions, it's good to see what everyone else is experiencing, because obviously as the creator I know exactly where everything is and I know where to go. So getting these responses is invaluable. And obviously once you've collected these responses, it's good to write them down into actionable tasks. And obviously these aren't the most actionable, like wildlife ? But I'm using Trello, which is a good way of creating tasks and being able to drag them around. For example, I've moved some of the ones I've already fixed into fixed. I haven't updated the itch page with the fixed changes, but obviously when I make a more significant improvement, I will probably update it then. And when I update it, I would also want to save these responses and wipe these clean, and then ask the same questions and do it again, right? Yeah, having a Trello board is incredibly important, especially for if you were to do it as more of a job where you need to get stuff done. Having this kind of stuff set up will help you be more efficient in that. Yeah, another weird thing I found from the responses is that some people found the chain of events to be very easy and almost guided you too much, and other people didn't actually finish, and get to the end and even know what their end goal was. It's an interesting balance that you always have to do in game design, and I think I will try and use cutscenes more in the beginning in order to paint the picture of the future before the player needs to sit down and read the block of text at the beginning of the game, this bit. Because I feel like this is like reading text is the hardest part of a game, I guess, is not just skipping by everything. If you skip by everything, then you kind of you don't learn anything, but also you get into the game quicker, and if you want to get in the game, then you want to get in the game, right? But a cutscene where it's it's actions that you're watching rather than text, right? I'd also want cutscenes more when the player does a task that they should be rewarded for, in order to reward them for actually doing the task, right? And it makes them hunt that reaction for next time. But at the same time, like some of the feedback says, they didn't like it when they were guided so much, like it's obvious and it feels like you're just following the line that I've laid. So it's a balance. Everything is a balance, and you need to weigh up the options and think about what works for not only the most amount of people, but the people that you want to target too. So would you prefer to have it a game where people get lost, but also some people, once they figure out, have the most amazing time, flowing around and feeling like they're in this world rather than being pushed around this world by a guiding hand? It's always a question of what you want as the designer and the developer. Yeah, so the feedback I've received, everybody's extremely positive, which is expected, because if you were to click on this form, you probably don't mind spending more time on a game that you played. If you didn't enjoy it, then you probably wouldn't want to click on it and give your feedback, because you just click off, right? And obviously I assume that all of these responses are from you guys who are watching this channel, rather than from random people that stumbled across it on itch. There might be a few. There's some person who said that they hadn't played it, and luckily I put a thing in here that if they click that, it just takes them to the end of the form, so that they don't give me feedback I'm not interested in hearing if they haven't played it. Yeah, so obviously this is a very biased set of results, but you guys like it, and I kind of only really care about what you guys think anyway, because you guys are the only people that I'm kind of making this game for, other than myself. So yeah, next year I would like to make this into a full game. You looked in my Trello thing here, I have 3 sets of chains that lead to the end, but I'm gonna have to rethink how I'm doing that, because this is kind of like the very basic prototype demo, and you guys obviously pointed out huge changes I could make, and I probably want to make. So I will rethink the end goal and displaying that to the player. Yeah, so I really appreciate all the feedback I've got, and like I say, next year I want to make this into a full game, and I'll be working on it. I want to try and work on it a bit more full time. That might mean I make less videos, but I think I might make more videos like this where I'm talking, just because it's a good thing for me to track how I've been doing over the week or so that I have been working on the game in order to keep you up to date, but I also don't want to spoil anything. I just want to talk about the development and keep the actual game more of a secret so you guys can actually enjoy it with its full potential. Because I can imagine the people who thought it was too guiding and knew exactly what to do may have watched every single video of start to finish of mine where I kind of give stuff away, right? So yeah, I'll try not and give too much away, but also I want to give a bit away just so I can give you the information about how I make my games in order to help you make your games as well, or if just you're interested. So yeah, I'm hoping I would be able to get it done by the end of spring next year. But if it isn't done, I wouldn't be too sad. But also I'm thinking of redesigning Ticket Racing 2. You may have realized I haven't worked on that in absolutely ages, and that's because I made it way too big, way too hard to make. And even when I was scaling it back, I was seeing that by scaling it back, I was taking away what was the only fun part of it, which was the amount of cars. And so I'm going to rethink it so it's not relying on the number of cars, it's instead an actual fun game to play. I hope this was insightful, I hope this was interesting, I hope you liked my rambling. And I'll put my patrons up on screen right now. Thank you so much, you guys are the absolute best. Remember to like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you thought of this video, and if you have any comments, leave them down below, and I'll obviously read them all. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.